Hey guys, you're watching Daniel and Gian, and today we're going to be doing a full review of the 1975 classic Sholay starring Big B. And happy birthday, Big B, by the way.
21.
21. The man never ages.
Nope.
He will stay in that time capsule forever. But I want to ask you a question that you might not be able to answer, but what happened to Indian cinema from 1975 to where we're at now? Because Jesus Christ, we have regressed like a motherfucker. Like,
well, not we, Indian cinema.
Well, yeah, like I'm watching this and I'm like, I could have watched this in any film industry back in that time.
What do you mean by that? What's changed for you? Because I think I can.
We watch these films now and we're like, we can tell, not because of the language, but we're like, we could tell there's the budgetary constraints and that just it doesn't normally compare to the bigger budget American stuff we watch. Whereas if you want to throw this up next to a Western from the 1970s, it fits. Other than the song and stuff, that's the cultural element. But other than that stuff, it's the same. The story's the same. The acting is the same.
It's
the cinematography, yeah. I mean, just
it's very reminiscent of actually Southern cinema, believe it or not. So like things that like
there's some extreme. There was some action in there that was a little over the top.
I don't mean like that. I don't mean like that. But I'm talking about storylines.
Okay.
So like the movies that I watched this year that I've really enjoyed, like Asuran last night, I watched that, or like Father Shanai last year, or some other movies that are from the South that I enjoy. They're telling similar stories to what you see in Sholay, where it's a little bit more serious. It's a little bit more in depth with the culture of what's going on, but also the chain of events are not as flamboyant or extra. But I think personally it has to do with the way that movies are being shot. I think back then they took their time. I mean, I think this movie took over a year to shoot or something like that. Whereas now you need to start writing your script on set right now as you're shooting it because it comes out next Tuesday. Because you need to start your second film of the year 2 weeks after that, and it's just literally there's just no time to just fucking do anything.
It's like reminiscent of the Hollywood system of old, where
not because even in the Hollywood system, it would be at least there was a formula to it. It was your master, your singles, and that was kind of it.
I mean, more that you had your main film, but then you had a bunch of B films you were shooting at the same time,
sure, but I'm
using the same sets.
Pure visual though,
right?
I'm talking about pure capturing of. Back then, you can tell they were extending their shots. They weren't cutting as much. They were using the zoom to like start on a close-up and then end up in a 3-shot and then have the scene go on instead of cutting like a bunch of times or things that you would do today to save time, but they're not as creative because they're not thinking about it as much. Like you gotta, when you do a move like that, you can't just do it on the fly. You gotta say, Amitabh, you're gonna walk here, and then you're gonna come to this point, and this is your mark, because you're gonna talk to here, and then this and this and this is gonna happen, and then you're gonna walk to your left, and we're gonna pan with you, and we're gonna continue. I mean, that's taking your time and energy to do that. Obviously, in the action, they can be a little bit more careless, quote unquote.
I feel like it was also
help with the comedy,
right?
Because they can act. Because the style of comedy,
it's giving the scene time to breathe.
100%, and that style of comedy is very theatrical. If you watched Indian, like mainstream Hindi cinema comedy, where it's like over the top, that works inside of a theater. You can laugh if an actor's going crazy or they're crying really like.
And they had little elements of that with the whole Hitler character at the at the jail.
And but that works because you're shooting it wide, like a theater.
Right.
You're seeing it all. You're seeing the actors actually physically move, and so I think that's a reason for it. Because now they didn't have fucking drones. Like today, in a music video, you're going to have a drone shot and a fucking crane shot and a fucking like whatever shot. Whereas this movie, if they wanted a crane shot, they had to put it on the fucking Ferris wheel that was in the scene. Like that's how they got their high angle shots. So I mean, it's just like more creativity and just...
More creativity because you didn't have as many options, so you had to use what you had, you know. I felt like there's a lot of tropes that you see in other 1970s films from across the globe as well.
I feel
no, I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I'm just saying there's a lot of stuff that you see from these other classics. This is a movie that I could see. This is your
I know why it's so influential.
This is your Turner Classics film. This is your TNT, they show it every year.
This is the Gone with the Wind.
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
your Thanksgiving movie. They always show a movie at Thanksgiving after football or something, that the same movie, and you're watching it. Everybody watches it as a family kind of deal. That's what it kind of felt like. Obviously, way more violent, like incredibly violent. I was like, within the first 5 minutes, I'm like, holy shit, how many people have died? I don't think, of all the Indian films we've seen so far, collectively, I don't think we've had that high a body count as that first 10 minutes. You know, which is very like spaghetti western.
I liked it.
Yeah. No,
Train
I'm not.
robbery.
Yeah.
No, I know. I'm not saying you are. I'm saying I liked it. I like the idea of these two crooks. The cop has to help him out because the crooks are like that's just because 100% spaghetti western. And I enjoyed it, and I enjoyed the tonal shifts. They worked. I liked how the music was very much intertwined with the story.
Right.
Nothing felt out of the fucking random thin air.
The songs fit.
I mean, literally, the very first one was them establishing that they're best friends.
So they're showing they're best friends, and they're also showing that they're troublemakers. Like, they steal somebody's motorcycle,
steal someone's hat.
Yeah.
But I liked all that.
And mess
I
with people.
I thought it was fucking funny. I really did, and I enjoyed the whole idea of them getting caught, them going to jail. They're making a deal with that shop owner who's like, turn us in and we'll get the 1,000. And then they get out of jail, and he's saying that he fucked them all up. And then they come out from behind him, and it zooms out, and you see him. This is what I'm talking about with the zooms.
Yeah.
Standing, because if it were today's comedy, you'd have him in a close up, cutting to other people's reactions to but they didn't really do that because you don't. Sometimes
you don't need it.
You gotta use Occam's razor to filmmaking.
Right.
If you're telling your story visually and you're thinking about it, you don't need all this unnecessary coverage. It saves time and it saves money. The Holly song, halfway, and the reason why I enjoyed it is because it kind of came out of nowhere, but what I loved about the movie...
It was also set up at the scene before where he said, when's Holly? Because that's something's going to happen.
Oh, no, I'm saying, but I didn't expect them to break into song and dance.
Right.
It came out of nowhere. But it was still incorporated into the narrative because during the song, you're still having Amitabh, fall in love with another woman, and you're still having the love stuff going on. But then directly after what happens, Gabar comes in and starts fucking shit up. And one of the biggest things I enjoyed about this movie is for every positive thing that happens, a negative thing comes right after it. And what does that do? That's how we wrote one of our movies together before. You got to have your positives and your negative, and your positive, and it keeps your audience engaged.
There's consequences for everything that happens on screen.
But not everything's just happy.
Yeah.
And every time there was a happy moment, it was always followed up with something negative.
Right.
If you guys never noticed that, go back and watch it, because every time there's a good song, something fucking negative comes. Or even in the negative song at the end, when the girl's dancing, which I love, so they're in this canyon type shit. They're in this canyon with Gabar, and Amitabh's friend, Viru, is being hung, and he's he's in deep shit, and he basically says to Viru's lover, you need to dance for us, and if you don't, I'm gonna have my sniper shoot this guy. And don't fucking... It was
right.
Goodfellas style, where it was keep dancing. Not to Goodfellas, Oklahoma, where he's shooting the floor and he's dancing.
Yeah.
It was kind of like that. And so she's dancing, and they're throwing glass on the floor, and she's still dancing. But then, as negative as that scene was, what happens? Big B comes and saves the day. Again, this negative with the positive, and that just keeps you engaged.
It was buying time for the character to get there, too. It's a story.
Exactly.
It's a plot device.
But also, there was just plants and payoffs that I enjoyed that were throughout the movie, which is just a testament to the writing. You have the coin flipping. They always flip a coin.
Right.
What they're going to do. And then you find out after Big B dies at the end that his coin is just a double-sided heads.
Right.
And, he sacrifices himself knowing that he was going to die, because the whole scene is we're out of bullets. You go back to the town and get back up. I'll defend the spot and hold the spot down. And he did. He did it as best as he could, but he eventually dies in the process.
Yeah. Spoiler alert.
But, I mean, you're 40 years late. I don't know what to say. If I'm watching the movie before you, and you're Indian and you're watching this, you got problems. Because that's a big thing. But yeah, I like that.
This would I'm assuming this is considered a Bollywood film as well. It's a Hindi film.
It's a masala movie. 100%.
Do you watch the people from the other parts of the country, the people from southern India? Is this a film that you watch as well as just part of your lexicon?
Yes. I would say absolutely yes.
It's something. It's a question, but it's it might not be. We make assumptions, and that's because
there's a reason why Big B was in the Sierra Nareem Shah Reddy or whatever the movie's called.
Because he's a crossover.
He's already done it before.
Yeah.
He's established.
Right.
I think he's one of those stars that are just
right.
He's fucking Amitabh
Got it.
Bachchan. There's no way around it. You can't deny. It's Tom Cruise is Canadian, right? Or one of those is who's a big star that's Canadian? Some big stars that are Canadian, but you accept them as fucking American action superheroes.
Ryan Reynolds.
All these people, like
Ryan Gosling.
You're not gonna like not go to see certain actors because they're not.
Tom Green.
So I'm just saying. I know India is different because you have Tom Green. I know India is different because each little state is its own country.
Yeah.
But I think Amitabh is transcendent. Fun fact: the writers of the movie is Salman Khan's father and Zoya Akhtar's father. Zoya Akhtar is the one who did Gully Boy and, Luck by Chance.
Right.
So, ironically, Zoya's father produced an actual filmmaker who knows how to make movies, and Salman's father produced a child who's still stuck in the 70s and 80s. I mean, really, when you think about it, but it also just shows the nepotism still being continued. But let's back to the positive things. I want to continue to talk about the positive things. I got to talk about performances, specifically with Gabbar's performance. He was a pretty good villain, I thought. I especially because for the most part, Hindi cinema has weak villains.
Right.
They just do. They're just not as good as the leads.
That introduction to his character was awesome,
With the laughing?
And I kind of felt it coming. It was a cool moment where he's like, empties the 3 bullets and then none of them fire,
and you know it's gonna happen.
Yeah, he's gonna shoot him,
but it was badass.
And it was. I expected it to the point where if it didn't happen, I would have been upset. Yeah, exactly.
But it did, and you're like, "Fuck yeah, okay, cool." This
exactly.
And I like the inspector. Although towards the second half, I thought his B story was it convoluted the story. Because if I had any complaint about the movie, it was just too long. But only because of the B. There was like 2 B stories that were kind of just stupid. Like there was this Muslim blind guy whose son ultimately dies. Whatever, you could have cut that out.
Should have went to the factory.
And then you have the actual inspector. His flashback was great. You find out like the reason why he wasn't helping out like during the big shootout. Because fucking Gabbar cut both of his arms off, and he has no arms.
Which is why he has the shawl on the entire time.
Which I liked it. I was like, cool, that's awesome. That's kind of all I needed to know about this character, though. I didn't need to have him be this reoccurring part.
He's wearing the shawl the whole time, and you're like, you don't even think about it. You're just I just think he's cold. It's
or like
man.
a Clint Eastwood style, like I'm always wearing my poncho. And nope, there's a reason why he wasn't helping out. And he couldn't say anything, which I don't know why he wouldn't say anything, but it's a movie. I was okay with it. I just didn't like how his story kind of like started to evolve in the later part of the movie because I didn't like the actual ending, which apparently there's an alternate version because the way the movie ends now, Gabbar doesn't get killed. So, I mean, one of the worst sequences of the movie is the actual ending itself, where Big B's dead, so Viru's like out for blood. And he has a huge fucking fight with Gabbar, and it's like this long, drawn-out fight, fist fight. And I was digging it, and I was on board. Because I wanted Viru to just smash his skull in, really. Because, Big B's dead.
Right.
And it's because of this guy. He's the villain.
And they built it enough where you want to root for the guy.
Exactly. And then, the inspector's like, no, don't kill him. We made a promise. Like, Big B promised we wouldn't do this. So he takes a step back. And then fucking inspector like throws his shit off and he has no arms and he literally like starts kicking him and I was just like, I can't believe that Gabbar, this badass rebel dude, wouldn't fuck the shit out of this police officer who has no fucking arms. I mean, he gets a few shots in, but it's like,
well, at the same time, how pissed off and like bloodthirsty would you be if the guy who killed your son and chopped your arms off was right there in front of you and you finally got your shot at him?
Oh, I'm not saying that he... look.
I'm just saying that he might have been practicing these kicks for years now, all right? So those kicks are lethal.
And he was also wearing, like, spiked boots.
Oh.
So it's like brass knuckles for his shoes.
Just to make sure.
And I'm not... my issue wasn't the fight. It was actually when the fight ended and he had Gabbar on the ground. And he was basically going to curb stomp him. And then fucking randomly out of nowhere, a bunch of cops come and they're like, you're a cop, don't kill him. Like, did you forget you're a cop or some shit like that? And he doesn't kill him. But in the alternate ending, apparently he kills him, which is way more fucking realistic.
Then it makes you wonder if it just wouldn't have played well with Indian.
Probably not. But the reason why it annoys me is because the whole fucking reason why your kid died in the first place is because he went to jail and he escaped. So why the fuck would you trust the system again?
Exactly.
You kill him, especially when you've hired all these people. Like, you're gonna kill the motherfucker.
Right.
And that's why he didn't want anyone to kill him, because he wanted to kill him himself.
Right.
He should have done it.
We also saw how easy it was to escape prison earlier with
Hitler, with fucking Charlie Chaplin.
Yeah.
Some of the practical stunts in this were just awesome. I mean, clearly people were falling off horses down hills. I don't know if the horses got injured. I really think they did, because they definitely tripped horses multiple times in the movie. I'm not a fan of that.
I mean, you could back then.
You could,
and
especially
people,
in India.
You
probably still can in India, to be honest with you. I don't know if the animal...
We watched that one video where they did like they show that no animals were harmed.
I don't know about this movie, though.
Yeah.
That to me bothers me. Like, when horses get fucked up, it just does. But it still looks good on camera.
Right.
I can't fucking deny that, like, a horse actually falling, causing someone to fall, it doesn't look good on camera, because it does. But... just there's a chariot scene where, like, the girl, the main love interest, she's being chased by the rebels, and she's on, like, her little cart thing, and they take the wheel off, and the horse is still... like, all of these moments were really good because they were real.
Right.
They just were.
Like you said at the beginning of the video, if it's a time thing, it's just going to be faster to put out shitty
Kashyap
CGI.
did it for
you know.
Kashyap does it.
Well, his movies don't make any money, so, you know.
And I think the argument to me is... Sholay spawned the Kashyaps of Indian cinema. Because if you watch a Kashyap movie, I would argue that a Kashyap film is closer to Sholay than a Salman Khan star is to Sholay, in terms of, like, the story and the way things are shot.
Right.
Because you look at that movie and they divide it into two paths. One path is... they took all of the exciting elements, this is the Salman Khan type movie, all of the exciting elements, the song, the dance, the romance, and the comedy, and those next films just expanded upon those immensely and sacrificed the longer takes, the zooms, the actual choreography of things, like the things that we liked. But then there was a little split this way where you have Kashyap, who probably liked what we were talking about. The slow takes, the zooms, all these creative visual things. And the song and dance maybe didn't interest him as much. And so I think that's why this movie's great, because there is a synthesis. They can work together. They can work together.
And I mean...
it proves that they can work together.
Not to pick on Indian cinema completely, but you can make the same argument with American film as well.
100%.
You know?
Because you all go to where the money's at.
You know, I kind of touched on it in the Joker review that we did, but, you know... a lot of people who haven't seen older films are like, wow, they're like in awe of this Joker film.
Because they haven't seen anything like it.
Exactly. Because it's been a long time since people put out that type of stuff.
No one's updated it.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
I think it's just something that we're seeing in cinema across the globe in general. Like, maybe not so much the European stuff that we don't really watch, so I can't attest to it.
I watch European cinema.
You son of a bitch.
You
You watch it here and there. You don't watch it all the time.
No, but I probably watch more foreign cinema than I do American cinema. Yeah.
Well, you watch more Indian cinema.
That's still foreign cinema.
But they're part of the critique. Is
No, I'm just saying, but I'll still watch, because I've been so inundated with American content that, like, watching Indian cinema has kind of rejuvenated my interest in movies again, in a weird way, because it's just a fresh perspective to make you appreciate what really works well in Hollywood cinema that I grew up with, but also things that aren't working well but are still being, like, explored in other... I don't know, it's just all coming together. I just liked it. At the end of the day, I was expecting this to be a 70s cheese fest, and there were absolutely cheesy moments,
right,
but they didn't bother me. They really didn't bother me. I felt like I was watching...
I'm going to tell you why it didn't bother you. They didn't bother you because they were the same cheesy moments that you watched in the American films from the same era. And that was the whole point that I was getting at when we opened up the video. Is that's why it felt...
like a 70s movie. Because it was.
Yeah, because it felt familiar. It felt familiar, but it didn't felt familiar because we've been watching Indian films for the better part of the last 3 years. It felt familiar because it's like, oh shit, these are the 1970s movies that my dad watched with me, that they were his favorite films, or my grandma or whatever.
Yeah, because I already knew what tropes were going to happen.
Exactly.
Like when the handcuff shit, when he's going to bust, I'm like, oh, these two bad boys are about to save his fucking ass. They're about to do something. Like, and then it happened, and then you're like, this is cool. I mean, I just enjoyed those moments because like I think that's 100% right. That's 100% accurate.
And I think we also, everybody loves a redemption story, you know, because it kind of was, you know.
I'd actually argue it was a revenge story.
No, it was definitely a revenge story.
So I mean, but it was everything. It's a Masala movie because it's a romance film, which I still think that was what kind of, there was about 30 minutes I could have cut out. And this would have been a fucking really good.
Right.
But I mean, there's other technical things like no reloading. No one knows what the fuck reloading is. Like Amitabh has a single shot rifle you're supposed to fucking cock every single time.
It's a little details, but that's stuff.
But that's just you wouldn't do that today.
Yeah.
You'd have a fucking arms master, you know.
It wasn't the Wild Bunch. You know what I mean?
But it was based on movies like that.
Yes, it was based on that. But it was definitely more...
It actually reminded me of Kurosawa.
Yeah, I was thinking it's like Seven Samurai. I kind of felt like Seven Samurai too, where you hire these two kind of the one grifter outlaw guy to protect your village, you know.
But that's what Sergio Leone based his movies on.
Right,
so
exactly.
That's what I'm saying. Like, it reminded me of Kurosawa, but also Leone, because they're all based on the same thing, but that all leads to the same point.
Right.
That's what we grew up on.
Yes. This over-the-top, like, gun shooting violence is definitely, like, Leone pioneered that, and then Sam Peckinpah.
Yep.
You know, some people say he took it over, like he took it to a new level with the Wild Bunch, but I also feel like a Wild Bunch was a little more serious, a little more grounded,
and a lot more violent.
Yes, yeah.
Not a little more, but a lot more.
Yeah.
But I just dug.
No, it was great. No, I enjoyed it quite a bit. I'm glad we watched it.
Own, one-time watch, trash.
Own it. This goes into the collection.
I would own this. Yeah. It's one of. I think it makes sense. How do I say this? I'm glad that the movie lives up to the hype of what it's been hyped up to be. One of the greatest Hindi films made, and that it's a transcendent film that really changed the industry. And so I'll let you guys know now, I'm going to be watching and reviewing solo Sanjir as well as Diwar, which apparently these are like the holy trinity of Big B, because they came out like a year apart or something like that. And those movies are responsible for the huge shift.
They're his Clint Eastwood with Leone films.
Kind of.
Yeah.
And so I'm actually more curious to watch it, even more so now after watching this movie, but I really want to start to dig into the Indian cinema thing, the historical elements, because that's what we do. We're fucking filmmakers. We might as well be historians with our fucking degrees, right?
I mean, I think it's a testament
everyone had to start somewhere.
I think it's a testament to, like, how far technology and money has come over the years. Everybody was shooting on the same cameras back then. You can see it from the quality of the film that we watched. Like, it looked the same.
Same cameras.
Yeah, they use the same camera.
Film stock, though.
Yeah, I mean, which is also this.
That's what happens when you don't have money.
Exactly. Which is spaghetti westerns didn't have a lot of money, you know. But those are the ones that we all watch and we love them, you know, and just.
Technically, we've improved immensely.
Yeah, absolutely. No, but what I mean is at that time, film industries across the globe were all shooting and it all looked the same.
With the exception of one thing, though, on a technical level, audio was way better in 70s, whether it's westerns or American, because at least the dubbing in Sergio Leone movies kind of was like they actually spent the time to actually dub it, to where you actually hear it. I had to turn I don't know about you, but I had to turn my volume way up. And then because it was
I feel like there was a lot of remastered, like the score was remastered for sure.
This was the 3D remaster.
Yeah. No, I picked up on that. Well, it says it on the title, but yeah, that little 3D like.
Oh, I didn't see it.
Little moments and stuff, like stuff flying at the screen.
I fast forwarded through that, so I didn't see it. But yeah, so like I had to turn my TV down during those moments because it was like the bass, but the dialogue's just shitty.
I don't know. I kind of felt like it was on par with Italian films or Chinese kung fu films as well. You know,
not the best.
It wasn't the best, but it wasn't enough for me. It didn't bug me. I thought it was.
Oh, it didn't bug me.
I thought it was fine.
I'm 100% in agreement with you. It's an own. As a poster collector, I want to find a Sholay poster. I know it's probably like stereotypical, and I'm probably not the only one who said this, but I fucking dug the movie.
Anyways, guys, that's going to do it for us. Thanks for watching. We hope you enjoyed this review. Let us know other classic films you'd like us to check out together. I know Daniel already told you he's going to check out some of Big B's classics aside from this one by himself. Thanks for everything. Thanks
It's
for watching.
encouraging, right?
It is encouraging. Absolutely.
Where I'm like,
it was fun.
To the point where I'm actually considering like Rank Gila or some of these other trailers that we reacted to, where it's like, trailers sucked, clearly because they weren't designed to be made interesting. But I'm interested to watch because Sholay is good. It's opened that door for me.
Absolutely.
Because if Sholay sucked, and those 3 hours and 15 minutes were a bore, it might make me reconsider revisiting something.
Be a lot of anger involved after that amount of time.
Yeah. So.
But that's going to do it for us. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.